I'm Alan Morrison, Head of Music at Creative Scotland. That's the body that distributes funding for culture and the arts in Scotland through Scottish Government and National Lottery. It's great to be back here at jazzahead in Bremen. This has become a really important annual event for us where we can showcase the great Scottish jazz talent to the world and also have our jazz organisers and festivals meet partners and peers from all over. There's a huge range of diversity in Scottish jazz, from the traditional jazz of the early decades through to the experimental improvised music of now, encompassing everything along the way, including the neo-soul, spiritual jazz of Mama Terra, who were our 2024 showcasing artists. Even within that, there is a strong strand that has developed in the last few years of Scottish jazz, which draws deeply from our own heritage, from the traditional folk and music of Scotland. You may have heard it in the likes of Fergus McCready and Matt Carmichael. But this year, you can hear and see it with Norman&Corrie, who are our 2025 showcasing artists. And within that music, you will hear something very distinctive as Norman Willmore draws from the tradition bearers of his Shetlandic roots. Very exciting music that you can hear and see on Friday the 25th of April in the Schlachthof at 9 o'clock. So Creative Scotland is very pleased to have partnered with Glasgow Jazz Festival and Jazz Scotland to support a range of artists who are here as a delegation. You'll meet them later on in this video. We also have a lot of people from our festivals, from our venues, from the wider jazz infrastructure in Scotland here. And all of us are keen to meet promoters, agents, festival programmers, other musicians for collaboration. You'll be able to meet us every day at the stand, the Scottish stand. That's 4 o'clock every day. We hope to see you there.
My name is Norman Willmore. I'm a saxophonist and a musician from the Shetland Islands, and I kind of mix music from the islands where I grew up with my jazz background. As I spent so much time away from home, I decided to, in an effort to combat my homesickness, learn more about the music from where I grew up, and now I incorporate lots of traditional Scottish music and specifically Shetland music into my own playing. The most recent album I made is called Twa Double Doubles, which is a reference to a drinking measure in Shetland, 2 double doubles. And it came out in November last year with an album launch at the London Jazz Festival, and we also played at Celtic Connections and like Love Supreme and a few other places. And it's a collaboration between myself and the drummer Corrie Dick, and he plays the drum kit and I play saxophone and organ pedals from my days playing the organ in the church, and lots of like other computer stuff going on as well to make this kind of big sound where we pump up these old Shetland reels. I applied to this showcase because I feel like after putting so much effort into making this album, and a big part of making it was to showcase the culture from where I grew up. Doing that in traditional music spaces is not really for me to do as a jazz musician, and there's plenty of other Shetland traditional musicians doing that. But a massive audience I can bring the music from my island to is like a jazz-based audience, and also an opportunity for me and Corrie to get some performances in other parts of the world that are not just based like in Glasgow, you know, playing Scottish music to Scottish people. It'd be nice to spread it out a bit further. I hope for my particular project that we get some bookings like at nice festivals or black box theatre kind of places around the UK and Europe, and basically have the opportunity to show quite a unique part of the Scottish musical history, which is Shetland, because it's so different to Scottish music in that, you know, the nearest land to the east of us is America, and to the west it's Norway, you know. So like our musical heritage is mostly Norwegian, and then this small bit of Scottish coming in, so it sounds quite different. Alongside making this album, we also made a film with a Glasgow-based filmmaker called Douglas Tyrrell Bunga, which is a kind of a film about me and Corrie making this album, but also a film about me and my daughter, who was born at basically the same time, and our trips back and forth. We have some events coming up where we're like showcasing the film and then doing the performance afterwards. For instance, that was meant to happen at Celtic Connections, but got blown off by the storm. It's also happening in Skye and in Ireland and in Athens as well. So yeah, there's a few things that's happening with the project.
My name is Marco Cafolla. I'm an artist, producer, musician and composer. And I have a few original bands, Mama Terra and Federation of the Disco Pimp. We've got a few different things happening just now. The main one is obviously Mama Terra. We've got a new album that's just came out. It's called Chameleons, Live Interpretations of Herbie Hancock, which we were invited down to London a few years ago to do that as a classic playback series for Jazz FM. And then the awesome Glasgow Jazz Festival got us to play it again last year. And we recorded it at the festival, and we're now releasing it as it's just been released as a vinyl and CD. So we're actively promoting that just now and touring that. With the Federation of Disco Pimp, we have a new album recorded as well. We've got guests like Fred Wesley on it, like the most famous funk trombonist player ever. Billy Valentine, he's guest vocalist on it, and Kenny Holman, who played sax for Prince and is now playing with Corey Wong. Before that comes out, we've got this new EP that'll come out before that as well, and it's just that super jam, like kind of 15-minute track of a big kind of James Brown style medley. So every artist or musician goes to Jazzahead to showcase. That's the ultimate goal, and we got the prime slot. It was a Saturday night, 9 o'clock slot. It was just love back and forth from us in the audience. And we were applauding them as much as they were applauding us. So it was really special, actually. I'd want everyone to know and hopefully get from our music is it's soul music from the soul. It's especially Mama Terra. It's very self-healing music. It came from lockdown. It came from a time when everyone was kind of climbing the walls a little bit, and it started with myself. It helped me through lockdown. But what I found is that the reactions I've had from people is you're getting emails and text messages and Instagram messages, like saying how it touches them and how responsive they've been to the music. So, and I really do believe that's because it's just self-healing music and it's soul music. If you want Mama Terra to come and play wherever it is in the world, we'll be there. Just send us a message.
Hi, I'm Marianne McGregor, and I'm a jazz singer and songwriter based in Glasgow in Scotland. I sing a mixture of old jazz and new jazz, a mixture of old jazz classics like inspired by Ella Fitzgerald and all the greats, and then a mixture of my own new thing where I write autobiographically. I grew up in a very musical family, and I always kind of wanted to be a singer. I played other instruments, but that's what kind of had my focus. And I guess I honed in on jazz when I was a teenager. I liked the freedom. I am working on an album at the moment, which I hope to release this summer. It's kind of a bigger project than any of the albums I've done before. So I have an amazing band, and it's somewhat influenced by like Amy Winehouse, Esperanza Spalding, so the kind of modern jazz. But again, there's a flavor of old time jazz there as well. I've kind of mixed up all these influences and ideas, and this album will be called Make Believe. The writing process for me is always starts off from like lyric ideas, and then I'll sit at the piano and mess around with chords and melodies. And often when I bring it to the musicians I'm working with, more ideas come and they collaborate with me to make the finished product even better. I have a few shows coming up this year that I'm excited about, particularly ones after the album's release. So we're going to do a kind of UK tour with the major jazz festivals in Scotland, and then a few additional English dates as well. I've done a little bit of international performing. I was lucky enough to get to go and play in Cuba a few years ago, which was absolutely amazing. But I would like to venture into some European touring, and that's perfect for Jazz Ahead to kind of meet the right people. I've been working for so many years as a performer and working on like the craft of my singing and stage presence. And now the next chapter is really delving into songwriting and putting out this new album. It's been several years since I've released an album, and now finally the ideas came back, and I'm excited to put out something that's original. I was lucky enough to get funding from Creative Scotland to make this album, so it's a much bigger production. So it's the third one, but in a way I see it as the debut.
I'm Joe Nichols, and I'm the band leader for Nimbus Sextet. We are a band that kind of fuses a lot of different influences, but I'm quite fearless in what I take from. So there'll be elements of world fusion, West African music, Latin American music, as much as there is contemporary jazz, more like esoteric modern jazz as well, funk, just a whole load of different influences. We did 2 albums on acid jazz, and now we're doing a 3rd album. So a long history. We've been going since 2018. A lot of my writing really, I take quite disparate ideas. I'm not one for being monothematic. I don't believe in this tune or this composition has one sound and one aesthetic, and that's where we stay. I'm an episodic writer, so I will take influences that seem very different and just kind of not be afraid to meld those two things into one piece. Tell a story that keeps people on their toes and keeps the audience interested. And I think, you need to have your own imprint as an artist, you need to have something to say. And we have a 3rd album coming, which has been gestating since 2023. I'm bringing a lot more dance music influences, so even elements of like trance and stuff. And we have a lot more guests involved as well. And that's like a really, really core change. When we're doing the world music stuff, the West African and Latin American tunes, I'm getting people that are from those countries to come and perform on the album, which is just an amazing privilege to work with people of that caliber that are real masters of their art and can bring something to my work that I couldn't have imagined. So we've got a Good headline show coming up in July with Edinburgh Jazz and Blues Festival, where we'll be featuring some of those international guests. And then from there, I'll be building a tour, hopefully also in Europe, to be playing in territories like France, and also making connections in Germany like I have with some of the folks that are actually from there, the promoters are from there, and to really just, play in the Benelux, that kind of area will be really good because there's a real appetite for jazz. I'm so excited to see what happens there.
My name's Dorian Cloudsley, and I'm a musician from Glasgow. I'm a composer and a producer and a guitarist, and I'm the founding member, band leader of Fatsuit, which is a large instrumental collective, predominantly jazz, but we have lots of different influences sort of running through the music because we have loads of musicians from different backgrounds too. We've got, a lot of folk musicians, Celtic musicians, kind of bringing that element to things, a lot of players from rock and pop backgrounds, and then that sort of comes together to make our kind of big sound. I'm also starting up a solo project this year under my own name, about the kind of intersection between jazz and improvisation and electronic music and the certain roles of electronic music. So that's an area I've been focusing on a lot more in recent years. I was a really massive music fan even before I was a musician. I think I remember being really obsessive about buying music, listening to it while poring over the sleeve notes, figuring out what everyone's role was, what everyone's contribution was. And I think as I've kind of become more of a sort of producer and arranger, that sort of makes sense because that was my first interest. Writing music is something that I do most days. It's quite a sort of immersive, long process. I like to take lots of little breaks and just spend a big chunk of time on it, try and break it up by being outside and so on, and not kind of getting stuck in a wormhole by myself. And I think you can get so much from remote collaboration now as well. So that's something that at Jazzahead I would be keeping an eye out for, is musicians who are open to remote collaboration. Fatsuit we've recorded our next album. It's being mixed right now, and we're looking to put that out this year. For my solo project, that's at a similar spot. It's recorded, it's mostly mixed. It will be coming out in the next couple of months. So I'm just looking to build a little bit of a profile for that so that I can start to get it gigging and get it moving properly. Last couple of years or so, I've been working a lot more in sync and music for media, not just as a composer, but also working as a freelance producer, pairing together labels and production houses with composers who are interested in writing in different styles and finding good matches there. And I'm always looking to expand my database in that, so that's something I'd also have my eyes open at Jazzahead. Anyone who works in sync or is interested in working in sync, or composers who are interested in writing, I'd love to meet while I'm there.
Hi, I'm Norman Villeroux. I'm a musician based in Glasgow. I'm part of the band Azamaya. I'm the bass player in Azamaya. Azamaya was founded by singer India Blue, who's the band leader. And other band members are Joseph Akin, a keyboard player, based in London, and Alex Palmer, a drummer based in Glasgow. Loads of exciting things coming, basically a year of releasing music. In 2024, we were granted the Open Fund by Creative Scotland, and we recorded everything, and we ended up with so much material that we decided to actually divide it in two and do kind of a first kind of smaller release in May so that things could move more quickly, and then the kind of bigger album is coming out either at the end of this year or at the very start of next year. Azamaya is very much a democratic band, and actually this, it kind of changes all the time. It's kind of like the band is almost like a person in which, depending on what things work, we might change our opinion on certain things. It started off as very much kind of India blues project, and a lot of the first album was kind of written with kind of India having kind of song ideas, but also we were starting to bring kind of all the different band members were bringing kind of their ideas to the table. We also work very spontaneously with improvisation, and then after that kind of compose those improvisations. a lot of our time in 2024 was spent playing. We did loads of live gigs, and recorded loads of music, and we were very productive on that level. And the kind of strategy for this year was very much to be kind of, okay, how do we reach our audience with this music, and what's the kind of release strategy or whatever. So 2025, at least the first half of 2025 up until our EP release in May, is very much focused on just releasing music. We're working on building a tour to support our EP at the end of the year. I think one of the funnest gigs we did personally for me was when we went to Rotterdam for the North Sea Around Town Jazz Festival. And then we just drove from Glasgow to Rotterdam to play this gig. And then we had another gig just after that, so we had to drive back up to Glasgow. So all of these experiences they're just very fun and positive.
Hello, my name is Ali Affleck, and I am primarily a vocalist and a lyricist. I would say that my style is very much informed from the past, from old folk music, traditional music, and of course traditional jazz and pre-jazz flavors. What I do is I'm working with several musicians in other countries at the moment to reimagine and rearrange and create original material that is informed from the hot and exciting period from about 1900s to about 1940. I have been lucky enough to work in many different countries. And as I say, I have several collectives and bands that I work within, including an all-female collective known as the Traveling Janes. And we recently were the recipient of some funding to record a double album of Scottish, Irish, and also the early Southern USA, early jazz and blues tradition. A highlight for me, I have three. One was performing at French Quarter Festival a few years before COVID with my friend Joplin. And then I have recorded a wonderful album with a French band, and we are debuting at Bal Blomet in Paris soon. I also played at Ronnie Scott's, and we sold out. It was wonderfully exciting, and so many people were gagging for us to go back. That was wonderful. And we had our old friend Enrico Tommaso join us on stage for that. And the other thing would be being invited to perform the full 10 days at Ascona Jazz Festival in Switzerland. So I'm very much keen to further expand on the original material that myself, the Traveling Janes, and the Spicy Little Devils band are doing, and building upon that, hopefully. And as well as getting better at the old tenor guitar. And very excited to be at Jazzahead. This is my second time here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what may happen. Regret.